Welcome to Cut Up's Film Review, brought to you by Maize and Blue Review. I would say this is probably the one we've been looking forward to all year. Michigan defeats Ohio State again, three-peat, 30-24. Hey, Ryan Day, what happened?
Oh, man.
I'll tell you what, man. You did everything you could to try and fight back at Michigan off the field. It didn't work. It is going to be a rough summer when that stuff comes back to you, Mr. Day. But for now, we're going to talk football on the field, X's and O's. What a great football game. Arguably the end of an era in many ways, that this game is just not going to feel the same moving forward with the expansion of the playoff and, no more divisions, potential matchups or rematches in the Big Ten championship game. Just an awesome game. And I will say, out the jump, I was impressed with Ohio State. I thought the defense did play well. We're going to explain where they didn't, and I think Kyle McCord came into a pressure cooker, and I expected him to struggle more than he did. After the Will Johnson interception, thought he did well. But anyway, of course, the leader and the figure of this show, the wizard, the GOAT, no cap, Mr. Toski, who has been to a lot of games this year. I'm assuming you were at this one.
I wasn't. Dude, I'm telling you, I've been to so many games. It's on my bucket list to go to like every away game, right? But there's something about this game, and you can call me a bad fan for it. I was at the 2018 game at the Horseshoe. This game wrecks me. Yeah. I have to watch it alone. I am pacing. I cleaned the entire house. I'm not even joking. Every time there's a commercial.
I saw your tweet about the commercials and how much stuff you got done.
Oh my gosh. I literally emptied the dishwasher, did all the dishes, did all my laundry. I pretty much did like all the bedding in the house. I cleaned everything on every commercial break. I was running around the house. I am not a person to be able to stand at a stadium for this game. And this game would have wrecked me. I mean, here's the thing. Anyone who can do that, you're a better person than I am. I'll give you that credit. But man, this game, what a great one. And it couldn't have lived up to the hype more. Like you said, I think Ohio State, this is one of their most complete teams because.
Oh, your video went away.
Oh, no. Can you still see me, or can you still hear me?
I can still hear you. We've got the 2001 Space Odyssey thing going again.
Well, I'll complete my thought. There hasn't been a more complete Ohio State team, both offensively and defensively, than this year. You can say they lost some firepower at the quarterback position, but that's pretty much it. I mean, I know they had some offensive line issues, but you take their defense as well as some of the playmakers they had on the offensive side, and this is a test, and a test that Michigan, I think it just made this Ohio State team tougher to beat than the last couple of years, which is a crazy thing to say. But anyway, let me see if I can get this.
I'll get one little mini rant in while you're trying to fix
get a mini rant. I'm going to try to rejoin.
I think the culmination of this game was the invalidation of the excuses of Ohio State. So in 21, we heard about the weather and the flu and the excuses. In 22, we heard it was just a few big plays, right? Oh, we had a bad half, right? Ryan Day said that earlier this year, but it was just one bad half, right? And then we get the scandal with the sign stealing, and that's why. I'm just explaining, Toski, how all we've heard about is the reasons why Ohio State hasn't been able to win this game. Weather, flu game, just a few big plays, the sign stealing. And I think everybody bought into those excuses. And that was never why Ohio State wasn't winning this football game. They weren't winning the game because Michigan wanted it more and was more physical. So Ohio State's defense made improvements to not give up the big plays. That's why you lost 45-23 maybe, but it's not why you lost the game. And we saw it in this one where it was still, it's the same thing. Michigan wants it more. They're more physical. The roles have reversed, if you will. But anyway, we're almost 5 minutes in. I want to see clips. Let's go.
Yes. All right. We're at the point now where this is what Ohio State fans should do. You and going off your point, Trevor, you've exhausted all other excuses. There's no sign stealing. There's no weather. There's no toughness. There's We don't have a defense. If your only complaint now is we don't have a Heisman level quarterback, McCord did his job most of this game. He played pretty exceptional.
Yep.
So now we're going to explain here how Michigan is just a better football team, just a better football program. That's what the film shows. And that's what we're going to get started on right away. All right, let's get to it.
And they'll give it to him running right with a little daylight, but he'll go down.
What are you going to do? Right? This is where the game is won or lost. It's in the trenches. That's it. And this is what Michigan's plan was all day. Here, they're actually bringing the nickel down. So this is one of the more loaded boxes that you've seen for Michigan in this game. Usually you're rocking with 2 safeties high because guess what? This guy exists, right? This guy is a future all-pro bowler, exceptional pro-level wide receiver that's twilighting a little bit in college football because of this 3-year rule, right? He should be in the pros already. So this is a great testament of Michigan able to win the battles one-on-one here. And it comes from a couple guys. You look at the play side here and Jalen Harrell, right? His job, keep his outside arm free, but then just constrict, right? If we just watched Jalen Harrell, what we said about him all year and years prior, he just does his job, right? He doesn't give up a whole lot of ground to the right tackle here, keeps that outside arm free, and he allows the other guys to clean up here, right? If we go back, who really creates this play? It's Chris Jenkins backside. It's a tough job here for your left tackle. He has to work across, but also this left guard, he was sped up a little bit more than he should have in getting to the second level here. This is sort of a miss from what I can tell of this left guard. If you're looking at this play design for Ohio State, play here is double Mason Graham, get out to the play side linebacker. Why is your left guard here just completely racing to this same linebacker? If you watch him, right, watch this guard. He is getting to that same linebacker that this double team on Mason Graham is supposed to get to, right? So he is abandoning his help here to try to just get a piece here of Chris Jenkins. And that's not a guy that you want to leave your tackle out to dry with, right? You need to get a piece of him before getting to the backside linebacker and trust that this double team will work to the play side linebacker. So this guard messes up, and that leaves just enough of a crease here for Chris Jenkins to work off his backside, right? There's that gap there because that guard is not doing his responsibility appropriately. So there's Chris Jenkins. He's able to work down the line. He makes first contact, right? He makes first contact. And then this is Mike Sainer still, right? He's clean. He's able to get up and make the final contact. But this play is made by Chris Jenkins, and it's more made of a mistake from that left guard. So it just a couple things, right? The double team not being able to get off of Mason Graham, that's one thing. And then you're just making mistakes on the offensive line. And you cannot make a single mistake going up against this defensive front for Michigan. You just simply can't. And that's what makes Michigan such a threatening defense is Michigan said, we will win this with our defensive line against your offensive line so we can commit more to stop Marvin Harrison. That's the game plan. And that's trust in the defensive line, and it proved to be the right move.
Yeah, like you said, Sainer still comes in, and what I led the show with, the physicality.
Yeah.
Like any opportunity to lay a big hit. And I mean, you can't say enough about Mike Sainer still and what he's meant to this team, obviously, his entire career. Henderson, 78% of his rushing yards this year have come on outside runs of 15 yards or more.
Yeah.
So Michigan knew that was the one thing, right? You can't let Marvin Harrison beat you deep for a touchdown. He's going to get his, but you can't let him beat you deep for a touchdown, and you can't let Henderson get huge runs on the outside. That was the Michigan game plan, and right off the bat, they execute.
Yep, they established that. And that's, like you said, that's not an easy hit for Mike Sainer still. Like, he's not that big of a guy, but he laid a lick on him, and he established that early. He's fearless. That's the number one word.
A little foreshadowing of another hit from Mike Sainer still.
A little bit later. All right, here we go. So Michigan gets the ball back, 3rd and 5 here. Let's break down some offense.
Edwards in motion. McCarthy finds him on a short pass, and he'll go no.
So I was a little frustrated with this play call because it seems like this is something that I would expect to be closer to a read option sort of an RPO look, because if we're just looking at numbers in the box here, right, it seems like this should be able to break something up the middle. And what I mean by that is you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and these are your 5 in the box, right? If you're actually looking to make this play successful, what should you do? You should probably read this guy. If he's lined up a little bit outside here and his motion is taking him this way, right, then that leaves you with 5 defenders here in the box for your 5 offensive linemen for a quarterback keep. So I'm a little bit surprised that this was just a straight up screen pass here, because, you know, I won't give Ohio State a ton of compliments today, but their defensive backfield is good. Like they have.
Well, they knew this play was coming. Everybody knew this play.
Everyone knew this play was coming, but when your play hinges on Tyler Morris and Roman Wilson blocking, that's not what they're best at, right? And that's something that I feel like Michigan has done well at, is knowing what their guys are best at. And Roman Wilson and Tyler Morris, although willing blockers, it's not their forte, right? It just isn't. And that's a big body for Roman Wilson to be blocking. So I don't feel like they were set up exceptionally well for this. And it also wasn't a great throw, right? This throw needs to be front side here. This is all about timing, right? If you throw this ball and this carries the momentum of Donovan Edwards this way, then it looks possible, right? Of course, this guy might still be able to work off of this, but you're able to get Tyler Morris continuing here. You're able to get to the sideline quicker. Look how different that is if the ball is backwards, right? Your momentum is heading all in the wrong direction here. You give all that time here, and you lose a step or two to the sideline here. So that's not a good throw, right? We saw early on before this pass, J.J. McCarthy turfed one, was a little bit inaccurate. So when you misplace the ball behind here, it takes away that momentum, and it greatly decreases the chance of this play being successful. So kind of two things where I wish there would be some form of keep for J.J. McCarthy here and a read here to have J.J. McCarthy keep it, but also the ball placement didn't allow this play to be successful for Donovan Edwards.
I think my frustration, like I said, as soon as I saw him line up, I knew it was coming, and I've been beating this drum all year. Donovan Edwards has 29 targets this year in the receiving game for 26 receptions. Yeah. He is potentially the best receiver on this team. His average depth of target, so how far down the field he is when the ball's thrown to him, the average is 2 yards. This is how they've been using him all year, and we've seen what he can do if you get him downfield a little bit. And yes, I understand when you get him out in space, we know what he is in space, and that's where he is as a weapon. In this play, though, that obvious of a design, he's going to have to break tackles and shimmy right from the get-go. Sure. I'm with you. A better throw makes a massive difference. Right. I just don't think this is the right way to use him, in my opinion.
Yep, I get that. And
I'd almost rather that be Samaj at this point if you're looking for the shiftiest player behind those blocks.
And I think Aaron here has a good point. One thing he's mentioning he knows from the game, they're setting up a ton of stuff for the future from the sets they went with this game. And again, I'll point out in the pick earlier or a little bit later in this game for Will Johnson, there is a lot that you can do from this. On almost every screen, what I love is you can learn how the defense is going to react, right? You should always be learning what their reaction is to be off of this. Really and there's any number of counters, right? Go out to block and then go up down the sideline if you're Tyler Morris, right? You could do a similar sort of thing with Roman Wilson. There's endless opportunities here based off of how the defense is defending this and how aggressive they're going to be with this sort of look. So this isn't an end-all be-all, but I'm with you, Trevor. It frustrates me that this is the only way that we're kind of using him in the pass game when he has so much potential down the field that we've seen in limited reps. So we'll see. Okay, back on defense here, 2nd and 8. Here we go.
McCord looking. McCord dumps it over the middle. Henderson in space, and he'll pick up a first down.
This is where I started to get worried a little bit because Travion Henderson is exceptional out of the backfield. Ohio State and Marvin Harrison said this was one of the more difficult defenses in terms of doubling him, the switches that were going on. Ross Fulton on Twitter, one of the better Buckeye X's and O's guys, broke down the Wolverines' defensive philosophy in this one and said it was the most complex he's ever seen. So in terms of what Kyle McCord is looking at, it is extremely complex, the rules and the actual front that you're getting here. It is a very complex defense, to be frank, right? You have a lot of different things going on. And that's the first thing I want to focus on, is just the eyes here for what Kyle McCord is trying to look at. So he's trying to see if this seam is open. He's seeing that you have Will Johnson here initially, then he's going to cover the seam. You have this linebacker getting out over the top on, I believe it's Cade Stover, heading up the field here. Your flat is covered from who you thought was a potential pass rusher in Josiah Stewart, right? So he's dropping off here. So there's a lot of things going on. So let's just look at the eyes here for Kyle McCord initially. Looks like he's trying to diagnose, all right, what's actually going on over here to see if there's a potential opening along the seam. And I saw people pausing like right here. If you ever see a screen grab of just a screenshot and say, this is wide open, whatever. No, you have Will Johnson coming over the top, right? And that's what you have for Kyle McCord actually looking here. And you have to look at the momentum of the defensive back. So what I'm trying to get at is this is very confusing for a quarterback. This isn't an easy picture to diagnose. And as soon as I saw that and Kyle McCord checking down here, that is exactly what he needed to do, because by Michigan dropping Josiah Stewart here, they're bringing pressure from their linebacker, right? Dropping a linebacker over into the other curl zone here. Or I'm sorry, he's dropping over and he has to cover the seam. That's Junior Colson having to cover the seam initially until Will Johnson can get over the top, right? So with all of this coverage and you're sending different guys back, all of this chaos to create these four rushers, it's a very difficult look to diagnose. So Kyle McCord able to recognize this sort of look and dump it off to your check down to TreVeyon Henderson. I was worried from the offset, because this is all about confusing Kyle McCord. You're not going to beat Marvin Harrison Jr. straight up. You're not going to. You just have to limit him. That's exactly what Jim Harbaugh said. You have to just slow him down. He's going to get his. Don't let him overtake the game. But when Kyle McCord is appropriately checking down, when the defense is throwing these complex looks, that's when you start to get in trouble, because then the quarterback is able to diagnose what the coverages are and process at a higher level than he's shown all year. So this is the right choice. And you can look backside and say, oh, there could have been a window here. There could have been, or, not here, but there could have been a window right here or something. This is just one reading, and you don't understand what you're saying, go to your check down. And that's what Kyle McCord had to do more often than he did in this game. You got to give him credit, right? I'm going to give him credit when, instead of forcing something when he didn't understand, he shifted off of that. And that's not a tendency I feel like he's shown all year. So I was a little worried after this play, but what is your take on this, Trevor?
I wasn't, because the other thing you don't want to get beat by is Cade Stover. Fair. And I thought about last year when Cade Stover got isolated with Jalen Harrell, and he ended up making the play, right? But Cade Stover going down the seam is a weapon, right? And Michigan is not going to get beat by these receivers. So to see Will Johnson hand off Marvin to Josiah Stewart, where they're like, hey, if Harrison's going to cut across here, get 5 to 10 yards, fine. We're going to now go with Stover and double team him, linebacker in front, Will going with him. To me, that was just like, okay, I really like you just said, the complexity that they were willing to go to defend the offense. I was like, okay, I'm with you. The check down being there makes me nervous, but just what that clued me into, the level of movement in the defense, I was like, okay, this is going to be exciting. Minter's going to be on his A game today. Yeah. And he was, because Stover, 6 targets, only 3 receptions for 40 yards or so. Marvin. Yeah. And Marvin, again, he got his 118 yards, got in the end zone on that drag route where Colson got isolated later. But if you're telling me before the game, 160 yards, 1 touchdown for Marvin and Stover, deal.
Yeah. You take that every day. Again, it's just about limiting, right? These are top 3 pick for Marvin Harrison. Stover's probably a day 2 pick at worst. So they're guys, right? These are NFL guys, and you have to treat them as such, and Michigan did. They found ways to limit it. All right, 2nd and 10 here, a little bit later in this drive.
And they'll hand it off, Henderson, and he'll go nowhere.
And again, this is where I was starting to feel more confident in this defensive game plan, because it's just an exceptional job from Josiah Stewart. And
our little man has grown up from the beginning of the year, hasn't he?
He really has. And from that first play, right, where we saw Jalen Harrell doing his job on the edge, from this play, I was like, okay, this right tackle just isn't up for this job. He just strictly isn't. This is a manhandling from Josiah Stewart. He has no business doing this well on this play. He fires 70 back into the backfield. He's supposed to have the outside, right? But Travion Henderson, there is no gap to the outside because his offensive tackle is getting blown into the backfield. So he has to cut up into that gap. And Josiah Stewart is able to disconnect right there, that right arm. He's able to disconnect enough to say, I'm here in that hole, right? And it's not like it's just him. You have a one-on-one block, for Mason Graham beating up on the right guard as well. Watch Mason Graham. Great hands. This is supposed to be an initial double team. Double team doesn't get any movement. Sure, he's attempting to get to the second level here onto Michael Barrett, but watch Mason Graham continue on. Right? He keeps his outside arm free. Outside arm, get there. And then you also have Michael Barrett, where that double team is supposed to get out to him, double team, and then get out to Michael Barrett. Michael Barrett says, nope, I know where this play is going. He scrapes over. So not only do you have Josiah Stewart making the play, you have Mason Graham beating that double, getting off of that. You have Michael Barrett not allowing that double team to get to him, scraping over to the play. That's 3 guys at right around behind the line of scrimmage making contact with the running back. That's dominant. That's what you need in order to ensure that you have the bodies to cover the Stovers and Marvin Harrison Jr.'s and Emeka Ibukas of the world. And that's what it takes. That's what no other team outside of really Penn State was able to do against Ohio State this year. So it's impressive.
Michigan's 2 highest graded run defenders this year, Mason Graham and Josiah Stewart. And one of the biggest reasons why is their average depth of tackle. So we just talked about average depth of target for a receiver, average depth of target. So where they actually begin their target from the line of scrimmage, right? Josiah Stewart, 1.8 yards. Mason Graham, 1 yard is the average depth of target for Mason Graham. So these 2 guys, they get pushed. I mean, you just talked about it. Look at this. Both of them are on the nice side of the line of scrimmage by the time Henderson gets there. Right. Yeah. So Stewart, I brought it up. They made the little joke about him, but very early in the year, he was cutting inside way too early. Right. And just incredible. Sets the edge, gets off his block, makes the play, and just, yeah, I mean, this was a complete team effort from the defense, but this is just what Michigan does. They build throughout the whole year for this game, and we get to see the best when they play Ohio State.
Absolutely. All right, moving in 1st and 10 here. This is a later drive, but we get a kind of a big play here.
Play fake, McCord underneath, intercepted. Michigan, Will Johnson
jumped the route. Can't say it any better than that. And this is, I was interested by this. I couldn't see the movement. There must have been a little bit of movement here that both of these players here are pointing at, right? So they must have seen something, and it had to be the running back. Had to be something from Henderson there that they saw that they're trying to call out. But anyway, refs don't call. I'm glad they didn't. The coverage at the top here, you're bracketing it. So you have over-the-top help from your safety, and that is what allows your cornerback and Will Johnson, right? We expected this going into this game, that it was going to be a Will Johnson, Marvin Harrison Jr. battle. Top 5 draft pick in their respective classes, maybe, right? We don't know yet, but it seems like that's where it could go for Will Johnson if things pan out. So on this simple slant, Will Johnson's able to be aggressive, get in front of that because you have over-the-top help to the sideline. And there could have been a little bit of a clue if you're looking at the alignment here. If McCord is able to look at where you're aligning here. If you have over-the-top help, you can align to the inside a little bit more, which Will Johnson is. If he's to the outside a little bit more, then you're expecting that help from the inside of the safety, which would open up. So depending on the alignment here, you could have gotten a little bit of a clue from Kyle McCord. I saw a lot of people saying like, oh, Kyle McCord should have handed this off, anything like that. Just RPO reading the backside. And this goes back to what Aaron said of on offense, right? There are certain things that you can do that set up things later on. There are certain ways that you defend plays on defense that can set up certain defenses later on. What killed Michigan a lot this year, but especially against Maryland? Backside RPO, where you run your backside on a slant. The RPO is right here on the backside linebacker. If he reacts to this run play, guess what? Slant's going to be open, and it was against Maryland and against other teams throughout the year. Michigan uses that to their advantage. How did they play this all year? That's what the other team is going to use in their game report. It's common sense. What leads you to believe that they're going to change this up? Of course, you're going to expect some change-ups. That's not something. This isn't something Michigan has shown all year. And that's the difference. Michigan saved things on both sides of the ball, but especially defensively, defensive looks for this game. And this is the number one example of that. They defend this differently, line up inside, safety over the top outside, play this aggressively, because this is exceptionally difficult for your quarterback to read this. He gives a run play. Let's follow the eyes here of Kyle McCord. He's reading that backside linebacker. He's reading that. He's reading it. And then, boom, this linebacker is reacting to this run. Reacting to the run. You read that, and guess what? Boom, that tells me that the slant's going to be open. Now, what Kyle McCord should do, as soon as he starts throwing this, he gets the throw read. As soon as he starts throwing this, he should recognize right now, I need to turf it. And this is something that CJ Stroud was exceptional at. Whenever there was a look they didn't like, something looked covered, he would throw it just inaccurate enough. Sometimes his wide receivers would even pick up a pass interference for that. But that's not Kyle McCord. He's a really good collegiate quarterback, but he might just be that. He might just be a really good quarterback. He might become exceptional later on. But at this point, his first year starting, he's not at that level yet. And this is what Michigan schemed for this exact play, expecting a backside RPO, try and take advantage of what Michigan showed on film all year, and Ohio State bit. They said, we can get this with Marvin Harrison. This is money. Look at the eyes here of Kyle McCord. As soon as he sees it, boom, you're toast. You're toast. So this is just baiting. You just baited all year by having your backside RPO all year. You baited Ohio State into calling this play. And they took the bait. And Michigan capitalized on it. And it's kind of lucky a little bit from this angle. You almost get a tip ball. Rayshon Benny is like a millimeter from tipping that ball. If it's tipped, it's not a pick, right? So sometimes you take that, and Will Johnson just jumps it perfectly. And you could make an argument that, hey, Marvin Harrison Jr. should be fighting a little bit more for this, but Will Johnson just jumps the route. So a clear win both from the defensive staff and planning and setting this up, and a clear win from your defensive back for jumping that route appropriately and making a play. Now, the only thing, Marvin Harrison Jr. does kind of give up here. If you cut to the outside, you get a touchdown, right? But can't blame the guy for getting a pick and getting down inside the 10-yard line. But, man, what a play.
I know why they pointed at him.
Why'd they point?
He has a tell.
Oh.
So he looks to the side right before the snap, which way he's going to go.
Oh, okay.
So he looks right before the snap, and they point at him because they saw his eyes look over.
That's cool. That's cool. That's awesome. Yeah. But they knew his signs, right? Like that's the argument.
Yeah,
right?
They know that because Connor told them.
Right.
Connor was busy with Barstool all day. You nailed that. There's nothing I can add to it. Again, just pure. For guys that like this kind of stuff, man, that's porn. Just it's unbelievable. People called out Barrett's hit on Harrison after and how he was robbed today. Oh my God, was he robbed today?
Yeah.
I don't know. These guys that write these signs, they're signs. I've got signs in my head that pick these awards are just attracted to names. There's other linebackers I think you could make the argument for, but Eichenberg getting it is almost like you just looked at your preseason choices.
Yeah.
Like there's just not a statistical argument. Like with Barrett, okay, his tackles are down. Like you really kind of got to get into the minutia of why Michael Barrett was so good.
Right.
Literally the number one linebacker, Pro Football Focus grade, number one pass rusher when sent on blitzes. Obviously tackle numbers were down, whatever. But yeah, I thought Barrett was absolutely robbed today with the all big honors. But yeah, you nailed it on the diagram of the play. A little surprised with how Marvin pulled up there. And then obviously that happens again later in the game, but we're feeling pretty good, Michigan fans, after that play, no doubt.
Yeah. And real quick about the lists and things like that, you see a couple of the players tweeting out like the yawning emoji, whatever, because it doesn't matter. These guys, you know who pays attention to the film and how good the players are actually? NFL scouts. And that's ultimately what gets you money. And that's ultimately what gets you in the league. Those scouts, the people that actually know football. The media and the coaches, this is a small subset of people that don't have any bearing on what your actual career is going to be and how good you actually are as a player. This is the best defense in the conference, Michigan's defense. And it's because of how well they gel as a unit, how smart they are as a defense running this sort of scheme. It's corny how Jim Harbaugh called it a we fence, but that's all that matters. That's what wins games. And it's the rotation is what happens in the NFL. These defensive linemen who are getting right around 30 snaps, a little bit more now, right? That we're in the meat of our schedule. That's what it's going to be like in the NFL. You're not going to be out there all game. So Michigan is really setting themselves up well for the end of the season, maybe not getting as many stats as other guys who are dependent on for 50, 60 snaps every single game. But guess what? They're going to be fresh, they're going to be healthy, and they're going to be there to win championships when it matters. And that matters more than getting unanimous first team versus a first team and second team like Mike Sainristil, which people just don't know ball. For Sainristil, for Michael Barrett especially, and for a number of other players. People just don't know ball, and you don't have to apologize for those voting who don't know ball.
Real quick, while I have the thought, you made the comment about McCord not being CJ Stroud and on that throw to Marvin. I think that's a great shout. But further, I feel like Michigan fans have been more complimentary of McCord than even Ohio State fans have been.
100%.
You knew he wasn't CJ Stroud.
Right.
And I've put up the red flag from the beginning of the year, because when Ryan Day was asked about the competition between him and Devin Brown, his answer was about CJ Stroud. Yeah. And like this idea that he was like looking for someone that could do what CJ did. You didn't have that. Your game plan should have reflected that.
Yes.
Asking McCord to be Stroud, not fair.
No.
Right? No different than Michigan knew what Cade McNamara was. They know what JJ McCarthy is, right? Like, oh, I don't have CJ Stroud anymore. No, you knew you wouldn't.
Right.
You know? So that's why I feel like I keep coming to McCord's defense. But I mean, obviously on that play, I mean, that's it. Like you said, it's a difficult look early in the game on that side of the field by the student section, the crowd, everything. It's a mistake. And from here on out, he does pretty well. But this idea that they're like, oh, we just need a better QB and the QB needs to improve. Okay. Ryan Day picked McCord over JJ. Yep. He was worried he wouldn't get Harrison. And then obviously Ewers was in that class too, and he leaves. Ryan Day coaches the quarterbacks. Like, what are you blaming him for? Just crazy.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yep. Nope. Doesn't make sense. All right. Michigan with an excellent opportunity now. Second and goal, big play here. Take advantage of the turnover. See if they can do it.
Corum skipping. Corum pushing forward.
And we don't have a great angle on this, but the sheer cut of Blake Corum, you can tell it from the sideline angle, which when you can do that from a sideline angle, it tells something. So he starts to the left here. You can see Blake Corum. And I mean, this is just patented Blake Corum, little skip, step, hop. And then he does it again. So he feigns to the left here, recognizes there's a mass of bodies, right? They're throwing their linebackers here into the line of scrimmage. And this initial path here, and then he cuts left and then back to, or I'm sorry, he cuts to the right here and then back to the left. So I can't really, I'll say I can't really adequately break down the block outside of this is an excellent job from no other than your right guard. Watch Zach Zinter here. He does an excellent job off of his initial block. He recognizes this linebacker. I believe that's Tommy Eichenberg. And he gets flattened. He's on the ground, and that's Zach Zinter coming off of his block. So really good recognition off of this initial double team here with the right tackle. See the eyes here of Zinter working to the linebacker. And then he's going to get off of that block, take out Eichenberg, and that's what creates the seam, right off of the butt there of Zinter. So that's what opens that up. And that is huge. Blake Corum able to recognize that, time that up in combination with Zach Zinter, able to get off the double team, pick up that linebacker. That creates the crease. And there you get down to the 1.5 yard line to set up 3rd and goal. That's huge. That's everything. So it's a combination of having excellent offensive linemen, and Michigan has them in spades, right? Establishing that depth. The jumbo package came in handy. We'll get to that, I think, in the next episode because that'll be second half breakdown. But Blake Corum looked like himself. He came back, as he said in the post game, he came back for this game. He wanted to leave a legacy. And although that later play in the second half, I think, cemented that legacy, this is a huge cut. This is a big time play to take advantage of this, set the tone, get up 7-0 early after your defense made a big play. That set the tone of the entire game. And I don't think that is a guarantee without this sort of cut and this sort of vision for Blake Corum that we've frankly come accustomed to expect out of him. Great player.
Yeah, just another Corum game. 22 carries, 88 yards, had 4 yards per carry, the 2 touchdowns, responsible for 5 first downs, 2 runs over 10. 56 of his 88 yards come after contact. And then, he's the best short yardage back in all of college football.
Yeah. All right, moving into the goal line. I thought 3rd down could have been ruled a touchdown. It was one of those where it's really difficult to overturn, and it was called as a down on half-yard line on the field. But now you set up 4th and goal, and guess who? Give it to your freight train.
Max Bredesen, the up back, Corum, touchdown.
And I love watching these plays, especially from the rear angle. This is one of my favorite angles. I'm really glad they have this in goal line. And it's just hilarious how Corum almost always just mirrors the exact path that Max Bredesen goes on.
It's a smart choice.
It is a smart choice. And Max Bredesen, you want to talk about vision, and that's something that we always assign to the running back. I feel like Max Bredesen chooses where to go exceptionally well. He almost always chooses an optimal path, and Corum trusts that. And it's one of those things as well where I think Blake Corum is expecting to follow Bredesen here all the way. But this initial path to the outside, this is what this defensive back here is responsible for. You need to threaten that. If you just go straight up here, guess what? There's a possible crease that this guy can help take out Bredesen. So that's why you need to make people responsible for what they're responsible for before you deviate off of that into your actual plan. That's what makes Blake Corum an exceptional running back as well. So it's an excellent choice there for Bredesen, just to create a little bit more room. You have, I believe it's Eichenberg again, trying to shift over here. He's probably following his key of the fullback, and it's a great dive of Bredesen. He recognizes when to dive as well. He doesn't just stop, right? Bredesen's goal here is to form a path, essentially draw the path in pencil so that Corum can finish it in pen is the best way that I can put that. And that's exactly what he does. He draws out that path for Corum to go on and finish the job. And Blake Corum is, I'll call it, the best non-tush push option in a goal line scenario out there, without a doubt. So he's more dependable than any other goal line personnel player outside of maybe Khalid Hill. That's your only other guy I'll give you the microphone about is Khalid Hill in a goal line situation. Outside of that, it's tush push.
Panda.
Yeah, that's it. That's it. So, I mean, this was huge. 4th and goal. Got to have it, and Corum did.
The only reason Max Bredesen isn't the best non-offensive lineman blocker in the Big Ten is because A.J. Barner exists.
Fair
enough. So he's he's everything Ben Mason was, man.
Yeah.
He is the unsung hero of this run game. He has been phenomenal all year. He's also Michigan's highest graded pass blocker, which is kind of hilarious.
Wow.
I thought he'd get used in the passing game a little bit more this year. Obviously, there hasn't been a lot of throws. I just hope when we look back on this team, he's remembered fondly because he's been incredible.
He should be. All right, moving back. We're in defense here. Ohio State looking to respond. Here we go, 3rd and 4.
McCord to throw it. Lobs it in the air. Back shoulder caught.
I mean, what are you going to do? Right? This is one of those where it's just you double him, you can probably triple him, and he's going to get his. And it's a perfect throw. And I feel like we've had this with a number of the Michigan-Ohio State games in the last couple of years. They just have cyborgs back there, whether it's Chris Olave, Garrett Wilson, Jackson Smith, and Jigba, Emeka Ibuka. They just have dudes that will catch the dang ball. And when you combine that with a back shoulder here, it's damn near impossible. So it's a hat tip. It's a hat tip. That's all you can do on this play. It isn't like you can get any pressure because this is the first option. It's really the only option. And when you're trying to teach how to cover, you're in phase here. This isn't bad coverage. Maybe you'd like a little bit closer here if you're Will Johnson, be on his hip, make contact. But this isn't bad. You're in phase here. You're even. If we go back to this, you're on him. You're on him. And at this point with the eyes here, because you don't have contact, you have to read the eyes of Marvin Harrison, right? At this point, Will Johnson recognizes he is looking back for the ball. But the adjustment that Marvin Harrison makes to catch this ball is so late. It is exceptionally late. It's usually your reaction as defensive back reacts to the hands. And the hands here for Marvin Harrison are so late that it's damn near impossible to ever expect any sort of reasonable defensive back to break this up. He is only then, like at this point, pulling out his hands. And that is extremely late in a sort of back shoulder. He's not turning his body until he absolutely has to. So he's a special player, right? And I'm sure people are somewhat sick of people saying that, but Will Johnson's one of the best corners in the country. And this is an NFL pass that you'll see Marvin Harrison catching on Sundays, and NFL defensive coordinators will just have to accept it because you can't cover this much better than that. And it just is what it is. There's no real breaking it down more than that. It is what it is.
I'm glad you pointed out because, people were like, oh, Will got burned or whatever. He's watching Marv's eyes.
Yeah.
So if Harrison's hands go up where you would think, which is forward, Will's arms are going up. He's swatting the ball, everything he's been taught by Klink. So, yeah, like you said, just got to tip your hat. It's a great move by Marvison. It's a great Marvison.
I love it.
Which, side note, Maserati Marv. That's a damn good nickname.
Just like Honda McCord, dude. It's the best one too, which isn't fair to McCord. Yeah. But if you're setting it up with Maserati Marv,
hey, look,
it's counterpunch.
You get the Accord with that B16 dual overhead cam VTEC. It's not that can be a sleeper car.
There you go.
I'm 38. Fast and the Furious was like my life when that movie came out.
Some things.
Yeah. We'll start getting into Honda engines, and I'll quote Fast and Furious all night. He's got that Honda 2000. Yeah. Anyway, yeah, great play by Marv. Great throw by McCord.
Yeah.
And Will acknowledged this week something we knew, which was he was already a little injured going into this game. So even more impressive.
Yeah. All right, going in 2nd and 8 here. Michigan trying to slow him down.
Ohio State. McCord with time. Over the middle. And
here you go. I mean, the best play on this is maybe Cade Stover breaking up the interception, right? And that's saying something because it takes a hell of a linebacker to get over the top, time this play well. Again, it is a travesty that Michael Barrett isn't at least second team. He deserves to be first team. PFF, there's nothing else to say. We already said everything. He's Michigan's best linebacker. He's one of the best linebackers, if not the best in the conference. And his grades bear that out. He is exceptional. He's become just an exceptional linebacker for the Wolverines. He carries this up the seam perfectly. And I don't know what Kyle McCord expected. This is seemingly the first read. The eyes of Kyle McCord never come off of this. And he's just saying he's going to be able, Cade Stover's going to be able to moss this linebacker. And that turned out to be emphatically not the case. So it's a really good job. You look at the eyes especially, and I love this angle because you can see Mike Barrett. It's a really difficult job because his technique is taking him this way, right? But his eyes are constantly shifting, quarterback, tight end, quarterback, tight end. You can see his head continue to turn, and then he recognizes it, locates the ball, and almost comes down with that. He does about as well as you could, and it turns the tight end into a linebacker himself. Right, the roles were reversed right at about here. So it's just an exceptional job. You can't play linebacker any better than that. And Michael Barrett had exactly 0 busts that I can remember in this game, especially in pass coverage. He did exactly what he had to do. This was, and I'm going to be cheesy with this, but for a guy who came in as a Viper with this, his ability to stick it out and become this. He is like a tight end's worst nightmare because he is a Viper that just bulked up, learned the position of linebacker, and still has those Viper skills. And that's what makes him such a valuable linebacker because he was able to learn that position, still have the tendencies of a jumbo safety type, and he's perfect in that role. So if he's not a day 2 pick, I don't know what you're looking at. He's everything that you want a linebacker to be. In the NFL. So exceptional play, almost came down with the pick, and give Stover a little bit of credit for bailing his quarterback out.
Let's go another level. He didn't come in as a Viper. He came in as a quarterback.
Right.
They were going to transition into a Viper.
He almost went to Georgia Tech, right?
To play quarterback. Yeah, absolutely. Hometown Georgia.
Yeah.
Michael Barrett is just such an awesome story. So his high school in Valdosta is the highest winning most winningest whatever high school in the country. Plays for the most winningest college program in the country. Nobody has played 1 more games than Michael Barrett at Michigan. Just a legendary career. I'm a big fan of Mike Barrett. Anybody who follows me knows that. But one knock on McCord is he loves to stare down his first option, especially if it's Marvin or Stover. Marv, out of his 110, 118 targets this year, 30 of them are contested. And then Stover, of his 50 targets, I think 10 or 12 of them are contested targets. So, his quarterback trusts in his guys, but when you're staring him down the whole way, you're not really putting him in an advantageous place to make plays, which is why Marvin's catch rate on contested catches is below 50%. And I think Cade was like 6 of 10 because that's not on Cade Stover. That counts as a contested target without a catch, but really it should be a pass deflection.
Sure. And I didn't even notice this, but you got Marvin Harrison on a crossing route, and this eventually this is the responsibility of Colson Loveland. And that's not Colson what you Loveland. Want. Or I'm sorry, Colson Loveland. You're playing defense. Junior Colson. Excuse me. And that is not a situation you want to get in, right? We saw this exact play on the touchdown later on in the game. And this is what they probably saw up in the booth and called down like, hey, tell your quarterback that this is the guy. And they should have gone to it on this play. But exactly what you said. You have a very good quarterback in Kyle McCord starting in his first year who is prone to lock in, not go through his progressions, is maybe just to sped up a little bit, right? Not later, not have the game slow down for him. So maybe later on in his career, he'll be ready for that, to be able to check that down and find that option. But here he was fortunate. But you don't apologize again. You never apologize for your opponent's mistakes. All right, they get a field goal. Michigan up 7-3 back on offense.
And in large part, that's why they're playing so well.
First down, Wolverines. McCarthy on the play fake over the middle, and he finds his tight end, Colston.
This is just where Michigan found their bread and butter. They went to the well a couple times against the defensive backs, but this was the matchup that Michigan felt they had the greatest advantage, and I think they bore that out. I think they found that there was a lot of aggression in play action, something that Michigan really hasn't gone to enough. You're pulling your guard here after the play action. You're going to have Donovan Edwards pick up the pressure off the edge here. And then this play action is what Tommy Eichenberg is looking at. So when you're running just a simple in route here, sort of a quick slant, I would call that, or a simple in route there for Colston Loveland, you have nobody there. That area is vacated because of the overplay of Eichenberg to Donovan Edwards to this play action. So it's just taking advantage of that. There's a lot of open space here because of how aggressive they want to play to the run game. Again, don't apologize for it. And this, I really like this sort of throw because kind of what you were alluding to, I think earlier, set up your quarterback for who he is. And JJ McCarthy is a great quarterback, but guess what? This is a tough defensive backfield that you're throwing against. Set up your quarterback, get him in rhythm with throws that are easy, that are the primary read, and that you're confident will be able to get open, scheme open through your play action. So I like them establishing this early. Coastal Loveland's a problem. Idaho's best. And he does a great job here running that route, catching a little bit high pass in phase and get upfield for a couple extra yards. It's not an easy catch. It's not I wouldn't say it's a circus catch or even a difficult one. You expect him to make that. That's tough to make and keep your balance, and he makes it look really easy. So give him a lot of credit for that.
Idaho's best is fantastic. That is fantastic.
Yeah,
I thought this was going to be similar to the Michigan State game. I thought picking on the linebackers was going to be the game plan.
Yeah,
they did a bit. That's all Big Ten first team Tommy Eichenberg biting hard as hell on that play action. But Eichenberg and Chambers were real susceptible in the passing game. They did go to him a little bit. I think it was 6 of 6 for 70 yards and 4 first downs.
Yeah,
when targeting Ohio State's linebackers. So they did it. Just, when you look, I know that's Michigan State's the worst defensive team in the Big Ten. So that's not a fair comparison, but that was there all day. So it's so good to see them take advantage of it. I love Colston Loveland, man.
He's phenomenal. He's so fun. What
in that category of, the Mason Grahams and the Will Johnsons and the Kenneth Grants, like they're coming back next year.
Yeah.
So yeah,
terrifying.
So good.
All right, 4th and 1 here. And who else? Who you going to?
Down and short. Play fake. They find the tight end.
Just
What
kidding.
A call.
Right?
What a call.
Who do you think they're going to here? And this is, I didn't put in the earlier lack of 4th and 1 go for it for Ryan Day. But Sharon Moore, right? He called this aggressively. This is what you need to do to win this game. You need to take these opportunities. You need to know when it's time to go for it and when it isn't. And Michigan's tendency, time and time again, is short yardage. It's Corum. It's Corum. We're going to Corum. This takes such trust in your quarterback. This is a tough throw. It's a tough throw, tough execution. It has to be exactly where the hands are here for Colston Loveland. It needs to be right there. You cannot be accurate. You cannot be low. You need to get this ball out quick. The timing on the play action, because you're expecting there to be a little bit of a gap here for the defenders to come through because you're sending out your tight end. So everything when it comes to timing, execution, location of the ball takes a lot of trust. And Michigan has that trust in key situations. And Michigan just flat out executed guys here. And this isn't, I wouldn't say this is it's pretty damn tough. I'll leave it at that for, I believe that's Steel Chambers, right? Number 6 to get out. Sonny Styles, excuse me. To get out to this, because you have Roman Wilson just running towards the inside. So he has a little bit of traffic and his own defender to work out to the flat for this. So especially when you add in the Blake Corum fake, that's really tough for Sonny Styles there to, all he needs is that first step. You see that first step with that right foot. He has a little bit of false step, and then that right foot of his just takes a little bit forward, and look at the momentum difference. Momentum difference, a clean path versus false step with this foot, and then he has to work through his teammate to get out there. That's all you need. That's all you need to lose that battle. And then the additional traffic of Blake Corum, Roman Wilson, and that's the only step that you need for the 1 yard. And then everything else has to be perfect. The timing, the pass location, it has to be, or else you don't pick that up, and Michigan gets perfect execution. So really, really good. Really good job.
This is the difference in the game.
Yeah.
You know, Ohio State ends up with more yards per play, right? It's turnovers, the interception we saw with Will Johnson that leads to 7 points.
Yep.
And it's aggressiveness.
Yep.
Sharon Moore goes 3 for 3 on fourth down, and makes a ballsy fourth down call like this. Ryan Day punts it. Like you said, we didn't show it, but punts in that fourth down situation. And you'd think after last year, it was kind of the same thing. There were a couple fourth down calls that the Ohio State fans were booing. And then when they did have the fake punt call in, it didn't get executed, right? Like, that's the difference in the game right here. It's this play and the other two, and then the 2 turnovers. It's when you got 2 really, really good football teams that are evenly matched. This is the kind of stuff that swings the momentum to your side.
Absolutely.
And for Sharon Moore as an acting head coach in this game, while being OC and while being offensive line coach, to out coach Ryan Day and Jim Knowles. Yeah, there's a reason he's the head coach in waiting. We'll say that.
Yeah, and there's a reason that he should win the award. It was the Broyles Award for best assistant. We'll see if they actually give it to him.
How can you not?
Here's the thing. If they give Josh Gaddis that award and they don't give it to Sharon Moore, that tells you everything you need to know. All right. Like it would be ridiculous. But anyway, you're exactly right. I tweeted about it where I was questioning Michigan, especially after the Maryland game. That's a lot to put on one body. I don't care how great that person is. And Sharon Moore is a great coach. It's more of the sheer responsibility of coaching the offensive line.
That's arguably the 3 toughest jobs on a
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And the 3 where you need to be dialed in to make the appropriate adjustments. They're extremely difficult jobs to do. So to have all of those responsibilities.
I think this was the first game they knew for a fact Harbaugh wasn't going to be there.
Yeah.
And I wonder if that helped in some of the planning as well.
Yeah. And I do think, having Jim Harbaugh in the room up leading into the week and having the 2 weeks prior to be able to tweak that is huge, and it can't be understated.
Well, so they prepared for this game all year too. Let's be 100%, honest, right?
Yeah. So there are Harbaugh's fingerprints all over it, but in the moment to be able to deal with that pressure and to coach it as well as he did, it's crazy. All right. 3rd and 10 here. Let's throw it through a needle.
Hold on.
3rd and 10 at the 22. J.J. McCarthy looking over the middle. Caught. Touchdown, Wolverines.
I didn't know what happened on this play. I was like, where did that ball end up? I couldn't figure it out. Just a ridiculous throw. He's not even able to really step into it. Let's look at that. The first thing. It's not bad pass protection initially. I do think Nugent's getting beat the hell up a little bit there.
Michael Hall's a big boy.
Michael Hall's a big boy. And then I think JTT puts on a really good move against Ladarius Henderson. So you got both JTT doing a good job, Hall working his way through Nugent. So the offensive line does enough. It's only a 3-man rush, but those are some 3 tough guys that are rushing the passer. So he's throwing off his back foot on this throw. He's able to, he doesn't step into it. He's not necessarily throwing off his back foot, but he isn't stepping up into the pocket. So I don't think back foot is appropriate, but he's not stepping into this throw. It's just ridiculous. I know that J.J. McCarthy had said, and this is the best angle, right, where he is initially looking out here one-on-one. That's not there, so he's shifting over to this safety. And this is number 25. I forget his name. He's had like 100 snaps over the past few games, or maybe over the course of the season, but he's played as
Hartford.
What's that?
Malik Hartford.
So I know JJ McCarthy said like he noticed that once he looks over, right, that he doesn't look back at the quarterback. So this is just horrible timing for the safety. He's starting to look over right now. With his eyes. You'll see his helmet turn right after I clear the screen, and that's when JJ McCarthy is throwing the ball towards this window. I mean, you gotta laugh because you say, like, where is he aiming to throw this ball? It's like right here, right? And that is the perfect path here, but you are banking on this safety turning his head. And this was the exact throw that we said against Cal Halladay, right? Cal Halladay, it just whistles past his helmet and it somehow ends up in Roman Wilson's arms. Just a phenomenal throw. So I'll start there and just say that you have to recognize the sheer absurdity of this throw and putting it through that gap. It's like that LeBron, like between the legs, his own legs and the defender's legs, just like one of those just insane plays where it's like, wow, cannot believe that even happened. So the next thing I will get into is this full control. Is it a catch, right? This is the whole main excuse that Ohio State fans will give you, right? So right here is where you have to say he has control, right? You have to say he has control. The ball can move around while he has it in control here, but he still has it pinned against his body, right? He has the ball. At this point, the play is dead. He has control, had a step. His knee is either down, right? And you're probably looking, I actually think the review was he down before he got in the end zone? Regardless, the play is over here, okay? And you can't tell from this angle whether the ball has crossed the end zone or not. But if you have control of the ball, which he does, he has it pinned against his body here. He took a step, knee is down, he has it. He secured the catch, boom. Knee is down, that is a secured catch. At this point, the play is dead. Play is dead. It's over. It's a touchdown. Now afterwards, right? Okay, sure. He fought the ball away, but it doesn't even matter. So anyone telling you that this was an interception, they don't know ball. They strictly do not know ball. And I think the play only stood because they were actually looking at, is this a touchdown or not based on where this knee is down? And they didn't have the angle. So they got to stick with the call on the field. So it's impossible. It's impossible to think that they would ever overturn this, especially with how they called it on the field. It's impossible to actually think that this is an interception by the rules of the game of football. All right. So anyway, anyone who tells you that is just trying to cope with this ridiculous pass. Let's give JJ McCarthy a ton of credit. He had the cojones to throw this. If what he said is 100% true, which I have no reason to not believe about 25, that's incredible film review. And just a pinpoint accurate throw against Denzel Burke, right? Who's going to be an NFL cornerback, and exceptional catch from Romo Wilson. So don't let anybody try to convince you this wasn't an exceptional touchdown. It was. Huge play.
I love Joel Klatt. I really do.
He's great. I think he's great 99% of the time.
He was off his rocker on this call. Like,
don't
what
always
are you talking about? It's literally impossible for that to be an interception.
Yeah.
Because unless the ball is literally loose with no sign of control whatsoever, and he catches it, worst case scenario, you're going to argue they're fighting over it going to the ground, right? Guess what? Then right now on the ground, at worst, it's a tie, which goes to Roman Wilson.
Yes.
There is no scenario where a defender can take the ball away in the end zone and you say, oh, that's that makes no sense at all. And I'm with you. This is what was being reviewed, was whether he crossed the plane or not. They weren't reviewing the possession at the end of the play.
Right.
And it was a complete botch of the what was
commentary.
happening. The commentary of what was happening. And then, I know, is there a comment about it? Yeah. He thinks it's an interception if the throw is at midfield instead of the end zone. That's what Blandino said on the that's it. He's down, people. Like, what I understand. Like, now you're turning it to, well, he crossed the plane. So I don't know. This goes up there with targeting, where I don't think people know what a catch is anymore.
Yeah.
And then they just go on this. Well, no. insane.
It's a
He's
catch.
either down at the like 3-inch yard or 3-inch line, or it's a touchdown.
Yep.
So anyway,
All right, moving on.
not
Michigan
fired up at all about that. The only thing worse than that is people thinking that Rod Moore's elbow is a football.
That was hilarious. Rod Moore has 3 elbows. Did you not know this?
Yeah, it's
I'm
real
sorry.
unfair advantage.
Sorry, he doesn't have
Oh, he has one elbow.
3 elbows. He has 1 elbow and
Right,
2
the
footballs.
football. Yeah.
Correct. Yeah. If you draw a circle around it, it shows it even more. All right, moving into the Buckeyes' response here.
McCord, play fake. Up top, caught Stover. Big game.
You know, for as much as Michigan's rotation on defense I loved, this was just not Jimmy Rolder's time. I think he will have his time in Ann Arbor. This wasn't it. We saw how well Mike Barrett covered Kate Stover up the seam. This is not an example of that. Just a little bit late in your assignment. And that's the difference between being a 6-year with a number of years of experience for Michael Barrett and Rolder, who's still looking to get some of those live reps. He's just a step late. He needs to recognize now. He needs to be starting to get into his back step here for this down the seam. And if we just move forward slowly here, he's a beat late on that. He's a beat late, and that's all it takes because Kate Stover's a good athlete. And good athletes are able to punish you for that mistake. So give Jimmy Rolder some credit for tracking that down, right? Getting the tackle, limiting it. I just don't think he was. I don't agree with that rotation, right? You have Houseman, you have Barrett, you have Colson. Rolder will have his time. It's just not this year. But I like the rotation. There's just a time and place for the rotation in general. That's about all you can say about this. This is good pressure too. Michigan does a good job. They're bringing a lot of bodies here, and this is about as quick as you can get for who is this? Is this Junior Colson actually no, that's Rayshon Benny. Sorry. I was like, why does Junior Colson have his hand in the ground? But Rayshon Benny just straight up beat, again, this right tackle. I know the grades for PFF. I know you did the stock report. We're down heavily on the offensive line for Ohio State. I need to double check where number 70 came in because he was getting cooked. All right. Watch Rayshon Benny here doing a really good job threatening to the outside. I don't know what 70's doing there, but this is about as quick to the quarterback that you can get for Rayshon Benny. He does a great job there swatting the arms around and just barely missing, breaking up that pass. So give Kyle McCord some credit. He's able to drop this in a bucket, get enough air under that ball, and hits Kate Stover in stride. He really broke his tendency with this throw because I think a lot of people were expecting into this game, you get pressure on McCord. He had one of the worst under pressure completion percentages in the conference. I think maybe in the country, but
he was
just
literally
not
the worst in the conference.
Just not good under pressure. But he made some dime throws. This is a great one. Again, you can't make a mistake against great teams like this. And make no mistake, Ohio State's a great team. And Jimmy Rolder got caught. And I don't think I included it on this play, but Ohio State audibled into this to take advantage of Jimmy Rolder. There was a lot of communication with the sideline. They recognize Jimmy Rolder is here, and they like that matchup with Cade Stover. So give them credit. They audibled into the appropriate call to put the stress on an inexperienced linebacker like Jimmy Rolder.
What's weird about it, too, is Rolder's a more natural Mike. So on this play, Colson moves to I know there's only 2 inside linebackers, right? But there's a Mike and a Will. And Colson moves to the Will, and he's the blitzer. So it's weird that you wouldn't have Colson in Rolder's spot and either Michael Barrett, the best blitzer in the country, blitzing instead of Colson or Houseman. It was just really weird. And yeah, they got caught on it. I'll answer a couple of your questions real quick. Josh Fryer graded out at a 33.7 in pass block, which for those of you that don't understand, 50 is like 50 is terrible. It's not average. 50 is terrible.
Yeah.
60, 70 is like average. And then anything above that is good. So 33 is horrific. And then, to Kyle McCord's credit, I said coming into this game, it was going to be about pressure on him and how bad he was in pressure and how bad he was on the road. Obviously, the game ends with pressure paying off, but under pressure in this game, McCord was 4 of 8, which isn't great, but 50% under pressure is actually pretty good. JJ McCarthy is the only quarterback in the Big Ten with a completion percentage above 50 under pressure, but he had 101 yards. Yards per attempt, 12.6. His PFF grade under pressure was 90.9. So McCord was actually really good under pressure in this game. Couple big plays, which is, we've talked about that all year, forcing the mistakes. But again, the biggest knock on him, he did pretty well in this one.
He did. All right, moving on. You got first and goal here for the Buckeyes. See what Michigan's got.
The big fella in the backfield. They give it to him. Cuts it up. Trayanum will go down inside.
And this is one where I don't know exactly why I clipped this, but it just sets up a little bit more for Ohio State here. And I actually think Chip Trayanum ran the ball a lot better than we saw out of Travion Henderson. And it was interesting because coming into this game, it was Travion Henderson, and Chip Trayanum, I think, was a little bit more patient. I think he was able to diagnose some of the penetration that Michigan got on the defensive line and was able to cut off of that a little bit better. So I give him a lot of credit. I think he stepped up a little bit more than what a lot of us were expecting. So this was a good decision for him to, I think this is a great job from your defensive end. I don't think you can do much better here for, I think this is Josiah Stewart backside, might be Derek Moore, but he sets up the edge. You got 2 pullers coming across here, and your job as defensive end is blow this the hell up. Blow it up. Do not let 71 get past you, and just make it very complex, right? And you look at the job that you do right here. This is a very complex look. This is a great, this is just, you're looking at a mess here for Chip Trayanum. So he does a good job holding up here and just allows a little bit of a crease here. And I think it was a little bit of a misplay, but you lose eyes here. I think this is for Junior Colson. I think this is Junior Colson. I'm sorry. I don't have the numbers here to really tell for sure. But he jumps to the outside, but you're doing a good enough job with your edge here. I think he was a little bit too committal here to the outside because your edge does its job and keeps the outside arm free to force this back inside. So I can understand why the linebacker gets the outside here, but that opens up a crease. And then 70 is actually able to get out to the next level here and able to pick up a key block. So give some credit backside here for Chris Jenkins working across, able to get off of that block and make the tackle. But this still sets up Ohio State much closer on second down from the 3-yard line instead of from the 7-yard line.
I think one big change Ryan Day needs to make is you can't keep faking this rivalry, right? You pointed this out to me, and I think it's a really good point. After the game, he made the comment of this game means a lot to a lot of people, and it felt like he was almost leaving himself out of it, right? Michigan has done it for a long time, but whether it's Rod Moore, the Ohio kid with a chip on his shoulder because he didn't get the offer, or JJ because he feels he was lied to or misled, whatever it might be, go back to Charles Woodson, the Ohio kid, right? Chip Trayanum gets this rivalry. That's an Akron, Ohio kid who grew up loving Ohio State, hating Michigan, didn't get his offer. You bring him in as a transfer. And this is 2 years in a row. I don't think they used him enough, right? He's got a very similar skill set to the guy right here behind me. He's a former linebacker. I think he's 6 foot, 230 pounds, playing running back. He sees lanes differently because he's been on the other side of the ball. And he's a good, clean runner. And he only had 6 carries in this game, 6.2 yards per carry, 4.5 yards after contact.
Yeah, that's a good stat line.
In a game where you need to be more physical, and you've got a solid physical running back. And again, Travion Henderson's a great back, okay? But he's finesse. He's on the outside. You had the weapon right there. And every time you gave him the ball, he showed it to you. And they just didn't go to him enough.
Yep. And this is Those are all great points. And there's a certain element of hitting the hot, like keeping the hot hand, or who's diagnosing things better, because it's not going to be the same game over game. Certain running backs are just going to be better on certain days, and different defenses will give you different looks.
That is a great run inside the 10, man.
Yeah.
It's a great run.
That's
first and goal, you're getting closer in second and opening up the playbook. Yeah, he's a great player. Michigan was after him too. Michigan actually thought they were going to get him until Ohio State came in when he transferred from Arizona State, I believe.
Yeah.
Great player. Thanks, Ryan Day, for not using him more.
Yep. And then the one other thing to call out here, this is one of the few plays that you'll see Mason Graham there, play side defensive tackle, actually fall, right? How many times do we actually see Mason Graham not hold up to a double or actually fall to the ground there? And that helps create the seam. So no one's impervious to one-off play. But this is one of the few ones where Ohio State was able to take advantage of that. That crease is only there because of that rare mistake from Mason Graham. And that's a little bit of the difference. So second and goal here. Let's see what they do.
Play fake. McCord dumps it off. Caught. Touchdown.
This isn't a bad play on the defense. You do about as good of a job as you can here for Jay McBurrows. And this is a very similar play that we broke down on that fourth down for Colson Loveland. This is just a race, and it all depends on that first step. First step is extremely well timed from Ibuka, right? Emeka Ibuka. He's able to get that first step, and he is sprinting, and he doesn't have any bodies to work through on this path. He can just work straight across, and his goal is just get to this pylon. Look at the difference here for Jay McBurrows. He does not have the advantage of knowing where the play is going, so he's not able to make that first step and look at his path compared to Emeka Ibuka. Right? There's no traffic for Emeka Ibuka. He's going to be able to work his way across this unimpeded. And it's not the case for Jay McBurrows. He's going to have other guys reacting, other guys moving around. You got a lot of traffic to work through for Jay McBurrows. So just watch those two bodies, right, and how they react to this play. It's just tougher for Jay McBurrows. He has to work around a route there for Julian Fleming, and he's right there. This is the thing. It's not like he is 5 yards behind or that this is uncontested. He makes contact before the goal line. It's just that's all it takes. That one step early, right at the snap, boom, that step. That's all it takes. All it takes, and then a little bit of a redirect here for Jay McBurrows. That's all it takes to get just that extra crease. So it's not bad defense. Not bad defense. This is just to give Ohio State some credit. This is how you take advantage of Michigan playing man. If you have zone, this doesn't work. They got a man look. They called a play call to take advantage of man, and they got it. So give them credit. Sometimes the offense is going to have the right call. And Michigan must have not had that sign, right? I'm going to keep saying that because, like, what the hell are you talking about? So this is just a good play call. Nothing more. It was defended well. This is about as good as you can do in that play call. So I don't really credit Jay McBurrows. He did about the best you can do against a very tough play to defend.
Is there anything, whether pre-snap or whatever, because obviously, like you said, they're in man, but is there anything they can do to either get Sainer Still or Rodmore to realize what's happening?
That's tough because I do think you could recognize this.
You love Sainer Still jumping in on Fleming there, because if there's a slant, you're exactly where you want to be, right?
Yeah.
So.
I think as soon as he sees this action, he should probably start to duck out. Right. I do feel like there's a portion of that of, okay, it's going this way. You can recognize where the ball is. And I think you should be at least mirroring that at this point. This immediate threat of having over the top help on this slant is now eliminated. A quarterback's never going to be moving this way and throwing the ball backside to some form of slant here. So I do think there is a certain element of that. The other aspect of this, I'm trying to look. The only other thing that you have to take a gamble, because if that is the case, right, you have it going, your quarterback going this way. I do think you're locked in here on Cade Stover if you're Mike Sainer still here. And what happens if you do a late release with him, right? And then he's uncovered. So you have to gamble. You literally would have to gamble if you're Mike Sainer still in this case, because sure, it looks like he's blocking initially.
Good point.
But what's keeping him from going up the seam? Nothing. And I'm sure that's something that he's taught as well. But I don't think
there's also zero threat of McCord running.
Right. Yeah, exactly. So I think it's one of those things where you almost have to trust, right? Because you also have Loveland here as well.
You're 100% right.
What's going on with Loveland?
The Colston. No, you're 100% right. He's holding on for Stover.
Right.
And then once he sees McCord keep going, that's when he goes. Yeah.
But I do think there could be some form of pass off there, right? Yeah. Which it's extremely complex. So I'm not going to give Sainer still a tough time for this. But the solution would be, hey, in the case of this sort of runoff, you shift your responsibility here. You have to trust your linebacker is going to be able to rotate over, take this responsibility for any sort of throwback, any sort of thing up the seam. You take him up the seam, and that's your responsibility. And you shift over to help out on this. But I don't think that's part of the rules, and I think that's really difficult to expect anyone to be able to accomplish on the fly.
And Nick Burrows is there, man.
Yeah, right. He does a good job.
He was booking it, man.
Yeah, he doesn't do a bad job. He's an athletic player. He was maybe a half step late, but it's hard to really say he did a poor job here. Okay, let's move on. 2nd and 5 here for Michigan.
McCarthy in trouble, scrambling. McCarthy throws across his body. Whoa!
Just a crazy throw.
Oh.
I mean, wow.
He's a cartoon character, but I love him.
He really is. This is just a nutso throw. This is why you love having JJ McCarthy, because again, this is not great protection. You probably got away with a little bit of a hold. They didn't call offensive holding. There's a later play against Josh Wallace that also wasn't called against Ohio State. So they weren't calling it both ways, but you get away with one maybe a little bit right here for AJ Barner against JTT. So probably should have been called. But hey, it wasn't, right? And it wasn't called all game. And this is just a ridiculous throw for JJ McCarthy. Recognizes the pressure, working outside the pocket. And this is why you need a guy like this. When things break down, where do you go? There is a sliver of a window here, right? He was dealing. And anyone saying that that JJ McCarthy, they can't trust him, they can't give him the whatever. It's all nonsense, because this is really the only location that ball could have been thrown for this to be completed. Exceptional catch. And as tough as I feel like I've been on Cornelius Johnson, he came up with a couple huge plays, especially in improvisation scenarios. And this is a great catch. So yeah, things break down. What happens? You got to improv at least a couple times a game. And Cornelius Johnson was the guy who came up huge in those situations in this game. So that's it, man. When the play breaks down, what do you do? And they found a way to complete this pass somehow. Those are the margins. Like you said, these are the little things that you need to be able to find a way to win these sorts of games. And these guys have it.
They had a similar play to this last year against Ohio State too.
Yeah.
Cornelius Johnson is really, really good.
Yeah.
Coming across and using that sideline. I think the reason we are hard on him, that's the phrase you've used at times, is because he can do this.
Mm-hmm.
He can make incredible catches. He can be the deep threat. It's if he could do this consistently, he's one of the best receivers in the Big Ten, and he still is. He's a great receiver. It's just been that consistency, and he shows up in big games, man.
Yeah.
He just does, and that's an NFL catch too.
It is,
right? So,
just an exceptional play.
Yeah, I don't know what else to say. It's just props to him, dude. He's been great in his 5 years here. I think we put crazy expectations on him because of flashes like this, but man, that's a monster play in that moment.
Yeah.
Especially coming right after Ohio State just scored. You felt like you had the momentum most of the game, but now the half here, big play.
Yep. All right, moving down the field, 3rd and 5 here.
5 of the 46. Wilson in motion. McCarthy steps up and goes down.
Only sack for Ohio State on the day. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe that was the one and only sack.
Nope,
so
you're correct.
Overall, I mean, the pass protection was pretty good considering the last couple games. Zinter just got beat here straight up. And that's not something that we said pretty much any time this year. Looking at the eyes here for J.J. McCarthy, you're running Rowan Wilson in quick motion here, and it looked like this was supposed to be just a quick slant right here, a stop route right at the sticks, and hoping that the following here, I think they wanted Denzel Burke to be working behind to try to get to this. Instead, he worked here, and he has the athleticism to be able to work across this in a way to defend this really well. And I don't think J.J. McCarthy trusted that. I think it was probably a good decision to come off of that. If he wanted to throw this ball, he had to already be throwing it. And to be honest, that's risky against a guy like number 10. He's a defensive back that could probably take advantage of that if his eyes were in the right spot. So it's risky. So he doesn't decide to throw that. At this point, he's probably feeling that pressure. And there's nowhere else for him to go. I think it's relatively well defended. You look at if he has to try to throw somewhere else, right? You got some mesh concepts going on here, but nothing really showing up. Maybe Barner would have showed up a little bit late if he's able to work past this linebacker. But at this point, J.J. McCarthy is trying to step up or step away from the pressure, and it's just not possible. So give them some credit. They got some pass rush, and they beat one of the best guards in the country in Zinter. He just got off balance here with that left step here. He got tripped up a little bit from Nugent right there. Nugent's right foot and the left foot here of Zinter just get caught up a little bit. So that gets him off balance. And they got some dudes on the defensive line for Ohio State, and they're able to take advantage there.
No, yeah, that definitely looked like it was just supposed to be a quick throw to Roman. So I don't know if an earlier snap or I'm surprised Zinter moved left there anyway.
Yeah.
But that obviously collapses the throwing lane. And then, Barner's obviously okay with him going upfield and past JJ in that scenario. But Sawyer does a good job of continuing to push towards McCarthy, and then obviously just chucks him there. That doesn't matter at that point.
Yep.
He's able to release. Hall holds him up long enough to get the sack. So, yeah, it's just the difference for Michigan and Ohio State is Ohio State has these dudes, Hall, Sawyer, JTT, but they don't have the rotation and the depth behind it.
Right.
So JTT and Sawyer combined for 6 pressures in this game. But so did Jalen Harrell and Josiah Stewart. And then you got Derek Moore, Braid McGregor, right? And then that's not even getting into the defensive tackles where Michigan's 5 deep and Ohio State's 2.5, 3. So
sure.
But hey, obvious passing situation, and you don't see Zinter get beat a lot. So just chalk it up, I guess.
Yeah. And you're right about the depth. And I think that's the first half looked pretty similar in terms of considering the running game as well. It wasn't easy going, but later in the game, where's that depth? How does that depth come in? How these are the best athletes that either team will have faced that year. You're going to be tired. And how many snaps had you played at that point? That the whole rotation, establishing that depth on both sides, this is when it pays off. Not only your conditioning, you can't expect your defensive tackles or defensive ends to be able to hold up in 50, 60 snap games throughout the year. You need to establish those guys behind them. And Michigan has done that. Ohio State didn't. And though we won't get to the second half in this one, when you look at the run game and the difference between what the offenses could do against those defenses, Michigan just looked more fresh. They looked like, and that's a big part of their rotation in this game and the rotation throughout the year leading up into this game. It's a huge thing. All right, 3rd and 7 here for the Michigan defense after the wonderful punt from Tommy Doman. 3rd and 7, man.
From the 5. McCord sprints out of the pocket in the back of the end zone.
Ridiculous. This is a ridiculous play. And this told me a lot because I thought it was so interesting how they didn't trust their offensive line enough, right? And they had to send Kyle McCord outside the pocket. That's what this told me, which you could say that's a smart play. I saw that as they're scared of the pass rush, that they were. Obvious passing down 3rd and 7 here. And you still almost have Josiah Stewart. This almost became an Dan Orlovsky in the back of the end zone. I mean, not that close, right? But that's what it reminded me of. So this is Kyle McCord running for his life, throwing the ball here to Julian Fleming. And I said cyborgs, right, earlier for the Ohio State wide receivers. This is a crazy catch. That is a fingertip catch here of Julian Fleming. And then to get his body turned around to not have the ball contact the ground. Crazy. This is a catch, right? Because guess what? When the play is done, when a guy has established control and is down or across the plane, anything that happens after that point, such as breaking the ball up or fighting for control of the ball, it's over. So they called this a catch appropriately. All right. You happy, any Ohio State fans who are maybe here being sad? So anyway,
let's grab.
Yes, it's just crazy. And I mean, give McCord a lot of credit for putting it in a location that is only possible for Fleming to get that, right? And I think we forget, I do all the time, Fleming was like the number 1 recruit overall, or at least like the number 1 wide receiver.
Consensus top wide receiver.
Yeah, just crazy.
He's higher rated than Marv, Olave, Wilson. I mean,
just wild. And he has had injuries over a couple of years, didn't have the consistency, was passed over by just a bunch of other NFL guys throughout the years. But he still has this talent, and he shows that on this play. So, again, you got a hat tip. And you can pull up any number of these plays from these cyborg wide receivers. I'm going to keep calling them that because they're machines. These guys like Olave, Garrett Wilson, Jackson Smith and Jigba, Harrison, these guys can make these insane catches that very few wide receivers across the landscape of college football will ever dream of making. And he bailed him out. This is a bailout. Nothing about this play from this angle. If you pause it right here, looking at the coverage, this is decent coverage. It's not bad. You say that this is going to be complete right here for a first down, and you're going to say, wow, something crazy happened. And that's a pretty crazy catch. So it's not the worst job from Josh Wallace. Could he maybe have been a little bit closer? Yeah, maybe. But that's a huge play for them. 3rd and 7 to be able to pick that up. Otherwise, it's a 2-minute drill with 2 timeouts for Michigan, and they're punting from literally the back of their end zone. So, again, Ohio State, this is a great team. It's a great Ohio State team. Don't let anyone tell you different. And they made some big plays. So, hat tip.
Yeah, I guess during the Calvin Johnson days, that's not a completion because of the process and blah, blah, blah. But, like,
there you go.
That's why that was stupid.
Mm-hmm.
You reward players for making plays, right? The idea that because this comes loose when he's out of bounds makes it incomplete is stupid.
Yeah.
Right. There's no world where you don't call that a catch. So, and hey, back to what we said at McCord, right? At this point, this is his 5th straight completion since the interception to Will Johnson.
Yeah. He stepped back in a big way. I when it was 14-3, I was like, this is getting to crunch time for him. And
it felt like that could go into Michigan blowout territory.
It did. And Kyle McCord kept making plays like this under pressure. Or we called out a few of them to keep Ohio State in it. So give them some credit there. Okay, moving in now. They got the 1st and 10 and another big play.
McCord steps up in the pocket. Throws it deep. McCord caught at the...
I mean, what do you do? What do? You get great pressure. You get great pressure here. That's Derek Moore, just flat out beaten 71. And then top of your screen, you got Josiah Stewart, giving the business to Josh Fryer. Your ends get there. They get there, especially Josiah Stewart. He flat out beats him at about 8 yards here. And Moore does a great job as well. Give Kyle McCord a lot of credit for stepping up here. Now, the defensive tackles don't get great penetration, but you do have a nice spin here. Mason Graham is closing that. There's not going to be a gap here for Kyle McCord to escape. So Kyle McCord escapes the initial pressure, and then he loads up and throws the ball as he's getting mauled by Mason Graham. And then this is the right move from...
Might have saved a touchdown.
Oh, for sure.
Yep.
This is what you have to do if you're Will Johnson in this situation. You just have to close the gap, and you interfere. He's catching this ball, right? So, he's catching the ball. So interfere. And he pins that arm down. Again, cyborg here. So... could he have been a little bit better, Will Johnson, on getting over the top and not allowing this much space? I think so. I think you got to carry this vertical a little bit more, not allow this sort of gap between you and the nation's best wide receiver to form, because now you're in catch-up mode and you're in trouble. But at this point, when you're in that much trouble and you don't know where the ball is, it's either 15 yards.
So
right?
yeah, it's not a spot foul in college.
Exactly.
So if he would have been incomplete, it would have only been 15 yards. That's a
100%.
Great play by Will Johnson.
15 yards, you take that. You take that 100%. And I like that they probably coached that to him where, hey, if you're not confident here, interfere with him. Take the 15. That's better than any sort of outcome here. This is just another sideboard catch. This is insane. It's a one-hand catch. He's got the other arm pinned to his hip. Is able to come down with that and fall onto his back to secure the catch against his chest. I mean, what do you do? Again, what do you do? It's nuts. All you can do, as Jim Harbaugh said, all you can do is try to slow him down. Don't let him take over the game. And Michigan did that, but you look at some of these catches and you understand why the game plan was around it's like a Bill Belichick concept on defense. I forget the exact terminology. I retweeted some on Twitter, I think, but it's essentially just around doubling one player. There's a famous pregame talk between Bill Belichick and Ocho Cinco saying, we're doubling you all game. We're doubling you all game. And that's what Michigan game planned for, because this is what this guy can do. It's stupid. It is stupid. So anyway, can't blame Will Johnson. Again, we've had already a few hat tips. Is another one. What are you going to do?
I really hope that him and Arch Manning end up at the Colts, just because that'd be cool.
That would be cool. Oh, my God. I hadn't even thought about that.
I wanted to show this part of the replay that you just showed, though, if you want to start over. This is another one of those plays where Michigan is doing bracket coverage with Johnson and Rodmore. So if you look at Will, he's actually watching Fleming for a little bit because he needs to react based on what Fleming does. Is going to decide whether he goes with Marvin or whether Rod comes over. So can you go back to...
You want this angle?
There you go. So watch. You can see him. He's staring at Fleming. And then right a little bit further here. There. Right. When Fleming makes the cut and he goes up, he goes with Marvin. You can't see Rodmore yet, but Rodmore is now giving up on Marvin and coming across to help Fleming with Barrett.
And then, look at the subtlety here.
It's a double move.
Look at the subtlety here. Anything of the hips and the head here of Marvin Harrison, that's looking like it's a deep out route.
Yeah, right? So Will thinks he's in good position.
So,
and then
he just turns upfield. Boom. And you can see that shift. As soon as he shifts his eyes, he's looking at the body language here of Harrison. So then he just kind of lets off and is kind of mirroring, expecting that outside. And then Harrison just says, nope, just kidding, I'm going up. And that creates just a little bit more separation where now you're in panic mode because you can see that separation. Will Johnson will not be able to look back for it. And he just has to do his best to mitigate. You're in mitigation, and it's the appropriate time.
And Rodmore can't stay for help because if he goes, Fleming's wide open on a post walking into the end zone. So,
it's clever.
That interesting coverage that Michigan had been doing. This was just a situation where Marv's really late moves paid off. And then, that one-headed catch is stupid.
It's just stupid, man. It's been an honor watching him. Truly, you got to appreciate when there's a guy like Marvin Harrison Jr. I cannot wait for him to be out of a Buckeye uniform. Just get out, man. Because you want to look at just a stretch of exceptional wide receivers at Ohio State. It's crazy, and he's the best one. I made a prediction with my
picture they have of Olave, Wilson, Marvin Harrison, Fleming,
Jackson Smith and Jigba
and JSN,
all
on the same team. That's an 0-3 against Michigan. Well, Olave had obviously Wilson the 19, but still.
Right. All right, 2 more plays here. 2nd and 10.
Garner a lot of confidence from some of those throws in that game.
He's 6 of his last 7. Completes this one. Oh, my goodness. Travion Henderson gets.
Oh, hold on. We need to get the full audio of this.
Oh, yeah.
Give me 1 second.
Okay.
Give me 1 second.
I can watch this.
No, not that play. Not that play. We're doing it live. All right, here we go. Let's do it again.
Garner a lot of confidence from some of those throws in that game.
He's 6 of his last 7. Completes this one. Oh, my goodness. Travion Henderson gets waxed. Mikey Sainra still.
Gets waxed.
He's good, man.
Oh, my gosh. And this is when I say fearless, right? Just a fearless hit. I love it. And you could tell Mike Sainra still just kind of baiting this a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
You can see just his eyes. He's got his eyes in the backfield all the way here. Obviously, Michigan zone coverage here. So Mike Sainra still is responsible for anything that comes out of the backfield. At least that's what it seems to be with the reaction here from your safety. He's going to cover anything Fleming over the top. So I have to think that you have Sainra still's first responsibility, cover up the seam initially, and then get out to anything backside. That includes the running back here. So he's doing that, keeping his eyes into the backfield, sees Travion Henderson coming, and then boom, he's on a missile. This is a missile. And it reminds me of that hit of I forget who laid the hit on Reggie Bush. It was Reggie Bush's first snap for New Orleans out of the backfield, runs a little swing pass like this, and just gets demolished out of the backfield. And this is a similar hit. The difference was it was a linebacker who made that hit against Reggie Bush. And Mike Sainra said, I don't know how much he weighs. It's probably 180 or something.
180, 185, yeah.
And Travion Henderson is like a 230-pound back, maybe 220 or something. Anyway, Mike Sainra still has given up 30 pounds plus to this guy. But he runs in with the ferocity of a linebacker. There's no fear here, and it is a perfect, clean hit, and it is phenomenal. It's everything that you love about Mike Sainra still. No wasted movement, no fear, no conviction. He recognizes he has the reaction time to lay a hit here, and he takes advantage of it. That's huge. That's big time. And, I mean, you can say, yeah, it's only like a 2-yard pickup, right? Didn't commit a turnover or anything about that. But just the energy, just the sheer, I don't even know what to call it, the attitude.
Physicality.
Yeah, the physicality.
This is why they win the game, right?
It's why he's a leader in the room, right? Because this amps you the hell up when your teammate makes this play on defense.
So do you have there's a view where you can see the sideline?
Oh, I don't think I have that view.
Yeah, dude, they're going nuts when he lays this hit. And textbook, dude.
Yeah.
Look at him. Get his head out of the way, shoulder right into the chest, dude.
Yep.
I mean,
perfect. That's
perfect.
That's exactly.
And props to Henderson for not fumbling it.
Seriously. That's a really tough play. That's a tough hit. Yeah. So a lesser man would have fumbled it. So give Henderson some credit for getting
it. I'm so sick of the extra mouth guards. Why is that cool?
I don't understand it.
There's dudes that have 3 of them now. It's so dumb.
Yeah. I don't understand.
Look at both of them. Their mouth guards flopping.
Well, so this is the thing. I see that.
Sorry.
No. I see that Travion Henderson has one in, right?
Mm-hmm.
He is wearing a mouth guard. But this is a question I've had. Are all of these players just have an extra mouth guard?
Yeah, it's like a cool thing they do now. They have extra mouth guards.
But I don't know, is it an extra one for everybody? Or are they just, do some players not?
They do it because they think it's cool.
It's like a cool fashion.
Yes.
Okay.
And then they've got the one with teeth drawn on it or whatever.
Yeah.
Or they had the pacifier ones for a little bit.
It's so weird. I
don't know what I'm talking about.
Old.
Both of those guys would whoop my ass.
Yeah, seriously.
Wear what you want.
But yeah, man, this is just I mean, between this and we'll get to the Quentin Johnson one and probably tomorrow when I break down the second half. I mean, this is gonna be in every Michigan Ohio State, every Michigan hype video forever now, because it's just that good of a hit.
I like a celebration too. There's just something.
Oh
about
yeah,
like,
steps up, just stomps. I love a celebration that I love when guys celebrate in a way that isn't going to get them penalized, right? This is just sheer.
Yeah, don't dare flex.
Right, but this is just sheer, just
Black.
like he's just screaming. He's just excited.
Yeah.
That's just a football guy, and it's just so fun. And I had a tweet where it's just like there are so many players on this team. I think Mike Barrett and Mike Sainristil are at the top that are just exceptional players, but will go down as probably my favorite Wolverine, or are candidates to go down as your favorite Wolverine between Sainristil, between Barrett, Corum, JJ McCarthy. There's so many candidates for that in a way where I feel like it's been somewhat obvious in years past, right? Like Peppers or Aiden Hutchinson. I feel like there's been like one guy. There's like 5 guys plus on this team that will go down as that level.
Let's be clear. Mikey and Mike are 2 guys that have been here since the bad times. Right. And there's a reason they're captains. And they are 2 guys who we already talked about. Barrett, former quarterback. He's recruited by Don Brown and Partridge to play Viper. Partridge leaves. Don Brown leaves. There's not really a spot for him. He adapts his body. He goes back to special teams, works his way up. Hill Green gets hurt, so he ends up starting. Mike Sainristil's a wide receiver who gets convert. Now, we've talked about this before. He played corner in high school, whatever. Same thing, recruited by Don Brown. Don Brown leaves. He converts to corner out of necessity. And then becomes arguably, I mean, those 2, I mean, yeah, Mason Graham, Kenneth Grant, Will Johnson, these dudes are another level, right? That's first round talent. But are there 2 more important players than Mike Sainristil or Mike Barrett on this defense right now in terms of everything and the culture and the leadership? There isn't a person in the secondary on this team that hasn't said that they go to Mike Sainristil for leadership and coaching. Like, it's just unreal, man. I think we're gonna remember those 2 very fondly for a long time.
And I truly do. Like, Mike Sainristil is at the top of my favorite Wolverines of all time.
100%.
And I don't think that's going to change. And it's going to take a very, very special player. And we already have a lot of special players in the program right now that are hard pressed to overcome that. I think that's another area, and I'm delaying the end of this episode, so I'm sorry, Trevor, but that's one area
I love this conversation
where I wasn't ready to say goodbye to this team. I wasn't ready for Mike Sainristil or Mike Barrett, Corum, JJ McCarthy. I wasn't ready for those guys to be done in this uniform and to be out of the collegiate game because they're so fun to watch. They're so cool. And so it's one of those things where it was that level of desperation as a fan to be like, this game is everything for these guys to see this group play again, because it's truly exceptional to watch them week over week in this segment and just live on television to see this group plays together. I mean, it was 14 teams who are all conference level. They probably, a number of them we've already said should have been higher than they were, but it's truly, these are all guys who are at the best in their conference, some of which are some of the best in the country. And it's just really fun to watch.
Yeah. Now I'll say one more thing too, if you don't mind.
Mm-hmm.
This team's special.
Yeah.
And I don't have this gray hair because I'm young. All right. So Charles Woodson to me was larger than life, right?
Yeah.
I was 12 years old when Charles Woodson was playing. I didn't understand that he was human.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You look up to these people like Greek gods almost, right?
Yep.
So I don't fanboy anymore. I fanboy when I see Charles Woodson. Okay.
Yeah.
So I've just gotten to this point, like I'm a lot older than these guys.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So like it's changed the way my fandom and obviously my job has obviously changed the way I look at this as well now. I feel a bond to these guys that's just different.
Yeah.
It's a special group, and it's, we saw it later with the Zinter injury, their brotherhood and their character. And I know a lot of their parents better than players, because again, I'm probably closer in age to their parents.
Sure.
this is a really good group of people,
Yeah.
whether it's Blake Corum and what he does with we saw Thanksgiving and the NIL work, and JJ's the same way, and Barrett and Sane are still, it's just a special group. And I'm with you. I feel like we got robbed, this last month or so with this stupid scandal, and they weren't just trying to take this game away from Michigan. They were trying to take everything they've accomplished in the last 3 years away from them, trying to invalidate everything they've done. And I don't know that there was a bigger version of this game with everything that was on the line, and these guys just stepped up. And yeah, it's just been really cool to watch them. So yeah. I'm glad we took this moment to say that, because I said at the beginning of the year, remember this, guys, because these seasons don't come around all the time, and it's somehow, even who knows what's going to happen moving forward. Right. Obviously, there's a lot more on the line, but man, what a team.
Yeah, there hasn't been a bigger iteration of this game. There likely never will be, with the shift of how the conference is set up.
Oh, I want to talk about this too. Oh my God. Go ahead though.
Okay, let's finish it off here with
this play is what I meant. I want to talk about this play.
Oh, okay, perfect.
Yeah.
But yeah, anyway, just to finish that thought, there's no chance of the game meaning as much as it did this year.
Unless
it never will.
The Natty or something. Good
Lord. Seriously. Exactly. There will never be a regular season Michigan-Ohio State game with bigger stakes than this one. Ever. 100%. Ever. Mr. Martini said it. There has to be a Johnny Bacon book out of this team. Probably could be, especially with all of the Signgate stuff. There's going to be a series about it. I'm going to leave it at that. All right, 4th and 2, 3 seconds left, a couple timeouts for Michigan left. Here we go.
From League City, Texas. And he'll get a practice try here. And that'll be good. Good snap, clean hole, fielding, gets it up, and he hooked it.
All right, what do you have to say, Trevor?
Back to what I said earlier about this is how you lose the game and why they lost the game.
Yep.
I saw when this clock started ticking down, I don't remember. It was 20, 30 seconds left.
It was 35 seconds.
That Ryan Day let run off. And Klatt says something about how Sharon Moore should call timeout. And I said, nope.
Yeah.
Absolutely not. Don't give him a chance to rethink about this, to reconsider this decision.
Yep.
Your kicker has not made a field goal longer than 50 yards in his career.
Yeah.
Michigan gets the ball at the half. You have Marvin Harrison, Cade Stover, this offense, and you're going to settle for a 51-yard attempt? Thank you. What in the world are you thinking? It's a forfeit at that point. And I couldn't believe it. And props to Moore for not bailing Ryan Day out. I take that 51-yarder and I go into the half, even if he makes it. Okay. You got to remember the momentum at this point has swung to Ohio State in a big way, right? We said McCord's playing a lot better now since the Will Johnson interception. Michigan's offense hasn't been able to get going and score. Just an absolute Lou Holtz was right. You're soft, Day. Just an unbelievably weak call. I don't know what he was thinking.
I had a buddy at the game, and he said that Travion Henderson was jumping up and down, losing his mind at the end of the half, motioning we should go because they were on the field, right?
Of course they should.
Right.
If anything, get closer.
Right.
Even if you're just getting closer for a better field goal attempt.
Right.
I don't know, the couple 4th down calls they didn't go for 4th down once in this game.
And I thought about
not
it
Jake
a lot.
Moody kicking field goals for you. Sorry.
Yeah. I thought about it a lot where if there was ever a 4th and 2, 4th and 1 against Urban Meyer, it was a guarantee that it was going to be, a read option for the quarterback, whether it's JT Barrett or, whatever godly running back they have at the time. And they're just going to pick it up because they just would pick up 2-3 yards.
Yeah, not having a mobile quarterback has been a big difference in this game as well. Yeah.
It's huge for them, but it's also just a philosophy where if it ever got to 3rd and 5, I was it's over. They're going to be able to pick up this 1st down.
Yep.
And it wasn't even a question of how aggressive OSU is going to be. Now it is you're dangerously approaching the Frames Janklin like you already have portions of that in your DNA now. Like you've morphed into that a little bit, Ryan Day. So it's pretty nuts. It's pretty nuts that
don't
and you
scream
lose your
about being
players.
yes.
You lose your players.
That's what it is. You lose
because
your players.
it's a lack
don't
of
scream
confidence.
about being tough all year and not let your O-line and your running back go get you a first down there.
Yeah. And let me be clear. When we say that, like, and I don't want to speak for you, Trevor, but when I ever say that it is a soft program, that starts from the top.
Yeah.
It starts from the top. And I do think there is certain things where certain athletes will get to college. And I think when I'll stop short of, it's kind of like what Roman Wilson said, where if you're the big man on campus and you've made it already, where you're expected to be a top pick, if you're, came in extremely highly ranked, there's a different mindset of making it versus still proving something.
Still earning it, yeah.
And there's something with this Michigan program where they are out there to earn every single day. And it feels like there's a form of complacency within Ohio State. And I feel like that truly starts with leadership. You need to establish a culture that eradicates any form of that being a possibility, that mindset of we're there, we're already elite. If you're not, and I'm going to pull out the Jim Harbaugh, if you're not improving each and every day, you're going to become complacent at some point. If you don't have that mindset, if you don't have the leadership at your strength and conditioning, your position coaches, and the head coach. And I don't think they have that. And it goes back to the quote you said, Trevor, of this game is important to a lot of people. What kind of quote is that coming from your head coach talking about this rivalry?
And that's why you don't want to pick on Stroud or McCord, but when they said it's just another game,
that comes from the top.
Comes from the top. Absolutely.
That's it.
Yeah. No, and you just made me think of another thing too. Harbaugh talking about Sherrone Moore and their relationship and why he trusted Sherrone Moore so much to be able to take on this role. And he talked about how much the players trust Moore and Moore trust the players and how trust needs to go both ways. And that's why those calls, like you just said, trusting your players.
Yeah.
Like, what are your players thinking in that spot when you don't trust them? You
Sure.
brought up even the McCord throw earlier when they were like not trusting the O-line. Like, if you put them in that spot and they don't do it, okay, now you have a coaching moment, but like you got to put them in the spot, give them a chance.
Right. Yep.
So I just couldn't believe it. Couldn't believe this call at all.
Yep. The final point here, Derek Campbell, I truly think it starts in the weight room, right? That's the guy.
Most valuable man in Chevy.
Most valuable man. I said you should rename, I texted my buddy about it. I said you should rename the strength and conditioning, the weight room, call it the Ben Herbert weight room at this point. Do whatever you can to hold on to him for life. And the number one thing with the toughness, and because I had a tweet where the number one word is adversity. And you say all you want about the, making yourselves into the victims, whatever. These players had a lot of adverse things happen in the program, regardless of who's responsible, who's at fault, whatever. Losing your coaches, that's a lot of adversity to overcome. Everything you hear in the media, that's a lot. It's a lot to deal with. Ben Herbert in the offseason has, and this was in an article from The Athletic, something where before each practice, he hands out playing cards and he says, Kings are wild. And any 5 players, however many players get that, they need to go fully clothed into these cold pools in the facility before going out into their strength and conditioning practice. And they practice with the rest of the players drenched and probably not feeling the greatest in that scenario. And I was thinking about that. Think about just you going about your day. You're going about your day, and then one of your friends comes in and just says, you're going in the pool, and you have to go out the rest of your day, the rest of your work for the next couple hours, and you're drenched and you're uncomfortable and you're not feeling great. That's a lot of adversity that you're going through, both mentally and potentially physically, if you're one of the guys who has that cards. And you can either complain about it or you can find a way to make it work. So that's like one of those little mental things that I don't think they're doing that at Ohio State. I don't think they're doing that at a lot of other programs, because what's that doing? That's making you really uncomfortable time and time again, both physically and mentally. And you are instilling that into your culture. What do you do when you're uncomfortable? Are you going to complain about it? Or are you going to work through it and accept it? And that's what it took for this program to be able to work past Ohio State, is through their culture. And that's your strength and conditioning program is at the forefront of that.
Yep.
So again, Michigan and Jim Harbaugh recognizing that, having a guy like Biff Poggi in the room for a while, and having Ben Herbert, an exceptional nutritionist as well, goes along with that program, has changed this program. And that goes beyond the physical aspect, but the mental aspect as well.
This is going to be the second time that I've made a military analogy, and I'm going to prefix it the same way I did before. I do not mean to undercut or downtone the seriousness of the military. I do not mean to over-exaggerate the importance of football. But
of course,
when people go to be Navy SEALs and they try out to be Navy SEALs, there are usually two types of people. The people who have wanted to be Navy SEALs their entire lives and have always been top of their class and top physical athletes and competed in all these sports, are built to be Navy SEALs. And then the other group of people are people that have faced incredible adversity in their life and more than likely have nowhere else to go and nothing to lose.
Yep.
And 10-1, the people that get through the Navy SEAL test and become SEALs are those that had nothing to lose and have had faced the adversity. And they're not the ones that were in elite classes and put on pedestals and, expected to be that. Right. And that's the battle tested. That was the term Corum used, and the adversity and all of that. Right. So there's something to this program being built with guys that were underrated, right? Guys that didn't go to the fanciest high schools, that weren't always treated as, the knock that Roman Wilson made on Marvin Harrison about the Louis Vuitton and, all of that stuff. And you brought it up too, already being there. I'm not knocking Marvin Harrison in that situation, but like when he comes in that way and is kept that way, and the team's doing TikTok dances on the field instead of whatever else they could be doing, right? That's the mentality that starts at the top and comes down, right? It's incredible. And you talk about it and you try to build it and you have this vision and then it works.
Yep.
Right. And then it becomes a machine. And the goal is that when Aiden Hutchinson, Hassan Haskins, Josh Ross, Cade McNamara, okay, I know right now people are not feeling so happy about him and some of his comments, but those guys, what they bought in 2021 and created this base. Yep. And then they left, and then the next guys came, and they've created torch bearing and torch passing. Yep. And that's what's created the sustained success that you hope goes on, versus the exact opposite has happened with Ohio State, right? Michigan was the ones that had 5-star Rashawn Gary and 5-star DPJ that we felt like weren't really reaching their potential, right? They're not bad players. It's not them. These are kids. I know people hate when you say that, but they're kids.
Yeah.
Right. And they're just not being coached right now in the way, and that's just it. I think Ryan Day is a really good person. I've talked about that before. Mental health stuff is really important to me. And I think how he's turned his tragedy into his life and what he's done with it, I think is incredible.
Yeah.
I think is a fantastic football coach. And I think he might be a fantastic football coach somewhere else. Yep. I think it takes a special person to be at Ohio State or Michigan. Urban Meyer was a home run because he was a fantastic coach who just happened to be born in Toledo and then came up under Ohio State coaches and program and knew this rivalry and loved it, right? It takes a special person, and you can't just say, and vice versa, you can't be like Brady Hoke and just say it's the most important game on the schedule. He meant that, but he wasn't at that level as a coach, right?
Yep.
You got to have both pieces. So that's just where I think things are. And we see the blueprint for it here in the first half. We see the physicality. We see the aggressiveness. We see the missed opportunities for Ohio State, right? We come back in the third quarter, and there's some moments where it feels like Ohio State is doing to Michigan what Michigan has done to them, yep. Right? Giving them a taste of their medicine. And then that adversity happens again. And we see Michigan bounce back, and everything we just talked about takes over. That's why Michigan eventually wins this football game. And we'll break that down tomorrow night, the second half of this instant classic between two really good football teams, Michigan and Ohio State. And again, just another moment to say the Ohio State players are really good.
Yeah.
It's a really good football team. And I don't ever want these comments to be me taking shots at them. Roman can take the shots he took because he fought on the field against those guys. He's more than welcome to say that. I'm not in position to do that. Toski, John wants to know, do you have an idea for time tomorrow?
We'll do it at 8.
Right.
We'll shoot for 8 p.m.
I'm going to try and be here if that's okay.
Oh, you're more than welcome.
I would really like to be a part of the second half. So yeah, we'll make sure we get the next episode scheduled on YouTube. So you want to make sure, please like and subscribe this for us. That obviously helps the algorithm, gets it out for us. But make sure you're doing the notification bells. I try to set this while Toski does this, but same thing with Hail to the Podcast. I try to set it in advance so you get the notification bell. Make sure you can join us live. If you're watching this back on playback, I hope you've seen some of the comments in here and the conversation that's happening. We really want this show to be interactive. Like we said a million times, we're talking with you guys, not at you. So we have a lot of regulars that show up in here. It's good to see the same names over and over again. We appreciate you guys so much. And I know a lot of those regulars are also subscribers of Maize and Blue Review over at michigan.rivals.com. We obviously cover Michigan for the Rivals Network. We have since the day after the Michigan State loss in 2021. So Michigan has not lost a regular season game since we took over. We'd like to take credit for that. Right?
It's a crazy stat.
It's pretty amazing. This run they've been on is just unbelievable. But yeah, please join us over at michigan.rivals.com. We're really proud of the Den, our message board community that has just exploded in the last few months. But again, we had a vision for that place. We kind of set the foundation, and a lot of the new folks have come in and just absolutely, latched onto what we're doing over there. We're just so proud of what's been going on. So we've got a lot of intel going on right now. A lot of recruiting news is trickling in. Obviously, we'll have a lot of conversation around the Big Ten championship game. You going to that, Toski? Am I going to see you in Indy?
The Indy. Yeah, I'll be there.
All right, deal. So yeah, we're going to have myself and Brock in the press box and Mr. Josh Henske taking a private jet to Indianapolis, going to be a spectator for that one. So I'm excited.
What a flex. I need to figure out how to weasel my way onto that one. Yeah. But no, I'll just be driving like a normal person.
Yeah, exactly. I can't wait for his story on Sunday when we do Hail to the Podcast. But
it's going to be great. And I can't wait. Here's the number one reason before we say goodbye. The number one reason I got the tickets to go to the Big Ten Championship is to boo Tony Petitti in person. I'm dead serious. I was not looking to go to this game. If he weasels out,
I'll say we'll see if he's there.
Yeah, biggest weasel move if he doesn't.
There is some pretty credible smoke he might not be there.
Yeah, well, I don't blame him.
So I said it on Sunday, and I will say it again. I normally don't say comments this strongly about people I don't know. But if Tony Petitti is not there to hand that trophy to Jim Harbaugh, you are a coward.
Yeah.
You are a coward.
Yeah. It is
Roger Goodell.
Weasel move.
Roger Goodell and Deflategate and everything else went to Patriots games, went to the AFC Championship. It's already coward enough you weren't at that game.
Yeah.
There is no excuse that he wasn't at the Michigan Ohio State. I shouldn't say no excuse. God forbid something happened with his family. I don't know.
Sure.
But right, you should have been at the game, but maybe something happened. Again, I don't know. If you cop out and make your assistant commissioner or Joel Klatt or whatever, like, you already made an unprecedented move in the suspension of Harbaugh. You owned this. Yep. You need to own it now.
Yep.
You better be there. You're going to get booed like hell.
Take it.
I talk a lot of shit about Roger Goodell. That man takes it.
Yeah,
every draft, everywhere he goes, he takes it. And there's something almost likable about that.
If you want to own that job, own it.
Yeah, you need to
own it.
Because let's be honest, there's a future here that exists of the Big Ten Conference and Michigan being in it. Michigan was never leaving. I never bought into any of that. And if you want to continue to be the commissioner, you got to start moving forward and mending. And if you cop out of this, dude, you got to take your booze. Hey,
you're a joke. If you
absolute joke. How do you? Yeah, I mean, ESPN showed up for game day. Michigan was nice enough to throw them over at Ferry Field. LOL.
Yeah.
But you got to be there. You got to take your booze. It's just part of it. You can laugh about it, make a joke, do whatever you want, but you can't cop out. But anyway.
You'll hear me there. You'll hear me booing. Just know it's me.
I hope you're right because, oh my God, it's going to be vicious.
Can't wait.
I can't either. So, all right, guys.
See you
Thank you
tomorrow.
again. We'll see you tomorrow. Cut ups, second half, Michigan, Ohio State.